It started with a simple Thursday evening. The kind of evening that feels ordinary until it isn't. Mark was scrolling through the living room, sipping his tea, when he noticed an old, dust-covered photo album tucked behind the bookshelf. He didn't remember it being there. Curiosity nudged him forward. The leather cover was worn, edges frayed. He blew off the dust and opened it. The first photo made his chest tighten. It was his wife, Emily, smiling brightly, surrounded by friends he'd never met. But her eyes, something was off. They didn't quite reach the corners of her mouth. Mark flipped through the pages slowly. There were pictures from years ago. College days, vacations, celebrations. Emily was always laughing, always smiling. But as he looked closer, he noticed the small cracks in her joy. A hand over her face, a distant gaze. Moments where the smile felt forced. He couldn't remember seeing that side of her. Emily had always been warm, loving, and cheerful. Yet these photos told a different story. A story of hidden sadness, of battles she'd fought silently. Somewhere between the 10th and the 15th photo, Mark paused. There was a note tucked inside, written in Emily's delicate handwriting. It read, "Some smiles hide storms. Some hearts carry oceans no one sees." He sat back, feeling a mixture of guilt and awe. How could he have missed this? How had he not noticed her quiet struggles, the late-night sighs, the small, sad glances she sometimes gave out of the corner of her eyes? Mark's mind wandered back to the countless evenings he thought she was fine. He remembered the times she said she was tired or unwell, and he'd brushed it off. He remembered their fights, small but heated, where he had insisted she overreacted. Now, holding this album, it felt like the years were flashing before him in a new light. He could see the hidden depth of her pain, the resilience that had kept her going. He felt a pang of regret for all the moments he hadn't asked, hadn't looked closely enough, hadn't truly listened. Emily walked into the room quietly. "What are you looking at?" she asked, her voice soft but curious. Mark looked up, struggling to find the right words. I found your old photo album," he said, voice barely above a whisper. He hesitated, then added, "I didn't realize." She gave him a small, tired smile. "It's from a time when I was figuring things out. I didn't want to burden you." Mark reached for her hand. The warmth of her skin reminded him of why he loved her. The years of shared laughter, the quiet support, the little rituals they had every morning over coffee. But now it was mingled with a new understanding, a realization of the hidden storms she had endured silently. He didn't say anything more. He just sat there, holding her hand, letting the weight of her past sink in. There was so much he wanted to ask, to understand, to make right. But he also knew that some stories needed time to unfold, that the truth often came in small, quiet revelations. He turned another page, and a photo of Emily alone, smiling at the camera with something almost vulnerable in her eyes, made him catch his breath. It was as if she was telling him, without words, that there were secrets she had carried, secrets he had only just begun to see. Mark realized that love was more complicated than he had thought. It wasn't just about sharing happy moments. It was about seeing the hidden ones too, the ones that came with pain and resilience. And for the first time, he understood that her smile had been both a shield and a beacon, protecting her and quietly asking for someone to notice. He looked at her, and the room felt heavy with unspoken truths. And then, almost instinctively, he said, "If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more touching tales." Emily chuckled softly, though there was a hint of sadness in her eyes. Mark knew this was just the beginning. There were stories in this album he hadn't yet uncovered, stories that would change the way he saw her forever. The night was quiet, but Mark's mind raced. How much had she endured without him noticing? And more importantly, how could he be the husband she truly needed now? As he carefully turned the next page, a photograph slipped slightly, revealing something tucked behind it, something he wasn't expecting. The air in the room shifted. Mark's heart pounded, and a mix of fear and curiosity settled over him. He knew, somehow, that this discovery would change everything. Mark carefully lifted the photograph that had slipped. Behind it was a folded piece of paper, yellowed with age. He unfolded it slowly, the edges trembling in his fingers. It was a letter, dated more than 10 years ago, written in Emily's neat handwriting. "If you ever find this, know that I am stronger than I seem. I hide my pain because I don't want to hurt anyone, but sometimes the weight is almost too much. I hope one day someone will see me, not just my smile." Mark's chest tightened. He had always thought of Emily as the happiest person he knew. Now he saw that her strength came with a quiet burden he had never noticed. He remembered the small things, the times she stayed up late reading, the long walks she took alone, the evenings she stared out the window, lost in thought. He had thought she was just tired or contemplative. Now he realized she was carrying something heavy, something she hadn't shared with anyone. "Emily." His voice was soft, almost breaking. She looked at him, puzzled but gentle. "I didn't know," he said, the words barely audible. "I didn't know you were hurting like this." Emily sat beside him, taking his hand. "I didn't want you to worry," she said. "I thought I could handle it on my own." Mark felt a mix of relief and sorrow. Relief that she had survived, and sorrow that she had endured so much alone. He wanted to ask questions, to understand everything, but he also knew that some stories needed patience, that some pain couldn't be unpacked all at once. He picked up the album again, turning the pages slowly. There were more photographs, more glimpses into her past. One showed her in a park, sitting alone on a bench, smiling faintly at the camera. Another had her at a friend's wedding, her smile bright, but her eyes distant. It was clear to him now that Emily had been carrying this hidden pain for years, and yet she had lived fully, loved deeply, and still managed to make their life together warm and happy. Mark's mind raced with questions. How had he missed all of this? How could he have been so blind to her quiet struggles? He realized that love was more than shared smiles and laughter. It was also noticing the silences, the shadows behind the smiles, the moments when someone seemed fine but was quietly hurting inside. He looked at Emily again, really looked at her. He saw the resilience in her posture, the quiet strength in her eyes, and the way she always tried to shield others from her pain. He felt a profound admiration, mixed with a deep regret for not noticing sooner. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked gently. Emily shrugged, a small, sad smile on her lips. "I didn't want to burden you. I thought I could handle it myself. And I was afraid that if I let anyone in, I'd be too much." Mark shook his head, squeezing her hand. "You're never too much, Emily. You never were. And I want to be here, all of me, for you. I promise I'll try to understand, to be the person you can lean on." "It's not easy to let someone in," she admitted. "Sometimes it takes a long time to trust that someone will stay, even when they see the parts of you you hide." Mark nodded, feeling the weight of her words. He realized that this album, this discovery, was not just a window into her past. It was a chance for him to step into her world, to truly see her, and to support her in ways he hadn't before. He turned the next page carefully. There was a photograph of Emily at a small gathering, laughing with friends, but in the corner, barely noticeable, was a shadow. Her gaze turned away, a hand subtly clutching a napkin as if to hide something. Mark felt a shiver run down his spine. He knew there was more to uncover, more of her story hidden in these pages. And deep down, he realized that the album was not just a collection of photographs, it was a map of her heart, her struggles, and her resilience. Mark felt a surge of determination. He would learn every secret, every hidden pain, and every strength that Emily had carried silently for so many years. He wanted to honor it, to love her fully, and to never let her feel unseen again. But as he reached for another page, a photograph slipped out and fluttered to the floor. Unlike the others, this one was different, darker somehow. It showed Emily alone in a room, her eyes closed, her hands clutched tightly together. And in that photo, Mark saw a pain that went deeper than anything he had imagined. The room fell silent, and Mark felt a lump in his throat. He realized that this was just the beginning of what the album held, and what Emily had been carrying all along. Mark picked up the photograph from the floor. It was a close-up of Emily, sitting on the edge of a bed, her eyes closed tightly, as if holding back tears. Her hands were clenched in her lap. Something about it made his heart ache. He had never seen her like this, vulnerable, unguarded, alone. He placed the photo carefully back in the album, almost afraid to disturb it. Slowly, he turned the next pages. Each picture revealed more than he had expected. Emily laughing, smiling, celebrating, but always with subtle hints of struggle hidden in the background. A hand pressed to her face, a forced smile, a fleeting glance away from the camera. Mark began to understand that her life had not been a simple path of happiness. There had been challenges, heartbreak, and quiet suffering that she had carried alone. And somehow, she had learned to keep smiling, even when the weight of it all could have crushed her. He remembered moments from their marriage, nights when she seemed distracted, days when she withdrew silently. He had attributed it to work stress or tiredness. Now, with the album in his hands, he realized he had been missing the signs. The truth had been there all along. He just hadn't seen it. "Why didn't you ever tell me?" he asked quietly, almost to himself. Emily's voice came softly from behind him. "Because I didn't want to be a burden," she said. She sat beside him, placing her hand over his. "And because I wasn't sure anyone would really understand." Mark swallowed hard. "I should have noticed," he admitted. "I should have asked. I should have been here." Emily shook her head. "It's not your fault. I hid it well. I had to. And somehow, I survived." Mark traced a finger over a photograph of Emily at a college graduation, smiling, but with a shadow in her eyes. "Survived," he repeated, the word heavy on his lips. He realized just how much she had endured quietly, how many battles she had fought alone. He felt a surge of both sorrow and admiration. Sorrow for the pain she had carried without him, admiration for her resilience. And then, almost instinctively, he vowed to never let her feel unseen again. Mark's hands trembled slightly as he opened it. Inside was a collection of letters, each dated over the years. They were addressed to him, though he had never received them. Each letter revealed thoughts, fears, and emotions she had never voiced aloud. "Some days I feel like I'm drowning, but I smile because I know you're there. I wish I could tell you everything, but I'm scared of being too much. If you ever find these letters, I hope you understand me better than I could ever explain." Mark's eyes filled with tears. Every word, Every line spoke of a depth of emotion he had never fully grasped. Emily had trusted him with these thoughts, even if she hadn't spoken them aloud. And now, holding the letters, he realized the enormity of the love and trust she had silently placed in him. He turned to look at her. She was sitting quietly, her hands folded in her lap, watching him. Her eyes were soft, filled with both hope and vulnerability. He knew that opening these letters was a step toward truly understanding her, but also a step into a truth that could be painful and beautiful all at once. Mark swallowed hard, feeling the weight of the moment. He wanted to read every letter, to hear every secret, to understand every piece of her heart. He wanted to honor the strength it had taken for her to survive silently and to finally be the partner she deserved. As he reached for the first letter, Emily placed a hand gently on his arm. "Take it slow," she whispered. "It's not easy to share these pieces of me." Mark nodded. "I just want to see you," he said, voice cracking slightly. "All of you. Every part." Emily's eyes glistened with tears, and for the first time, Mark felt a bridge forming between their hearts, a connection deeper than he had ever imagined. He began to read the first letter, his heart breaking and swelling all at once as Emily's words spilled onto the page. And then, at the very end of the letter, a line made him freeze. Something he hadn't anticipated, something that hinted at a part of Emily's past even darker than the struggles he had seen so far. Mark's hands shook. He looked up at her, eyes wide, searching for an answer. "Emily, what is this?" She didn't speak. She only nodded, a small, resigned gesture that told him this was a truth she had never shared with anyone. The air between them grew thick with tension, a mixture of fear, hope, and love. Mark realized that the letters were just the beginning of understanding her fully, and that her past was more complicated than he could have imagined. He took a deep breath, preparing himself. He knew that the next steps would reveal the parts of Emily's life she had hidden, the parts that had shaped her into the woman he loved so deeply. And in that moment, Mark understood something crucial. Love was not just about happy moments. It was about walking through the shadows together, hand in hand, and facing the hidden storms of the heart. Mark held the letter in his hands, staring at the words that seemed to echo in the quiet room. Emily watched him closely, her eyes reflecting a mix of fear and trust. He knew that what he was about to read could change everything, not just his understanding of her past, but of their life together. He took a deep breath and read on. The letters told a story of a time before he had met her, when Emily had faced heartbreak, betrayal, and moments of deep loneliness. She had trusted the wrong people, had been let down, and had learned to protect herself by hiding her pain behind her smile. With each word, Mark felt his heart tighten. He had always admired Emily's resilience, but now he understood the depth of her courage. She had endured so much, yet she had never allowed it to destroy her spirit. She had carried her burdens silently, shielding him and others from the storms she had weathered alone. Mark glanced up at her. "Why didn't you tell me any of this before?" he asked softly, his voice full of emotion. Emily's fingers trembled as she reached for his hand. "Because I didn't want to scare you away," she said. "Because I didn't want my past to become your burden. And because I wasn't sure anyone could understand." Mark shook his head. "I want to understand, Emily. I want to know everything, even the painful parts. I want to be here for you, truly here." Her eyes welled with tears. "It's not easy to let someone in," she whispered. "But I trust you, Mark. I trust you to see me, even the parts I've tried to hide." Mark's hands tightened around hers. He felt a wave of determination wash over him. He would not let her struggle alone anymore. He would not let her pain remain hidden. He wanted to be the partner she deserved, the one who could share the weight of her heart. He continued reading the letters, discovering stories of her early years, of friendships that had ended badly, of dreams deferred, and of moments when she had felt utterly alone. He saw the fear she had carried, the fear of being abandoned, of being misunderstood, of being too much for anyone to handle. And yet, through all of it, there was a thread of hope. Emily's words were filled with longing for connection, for understanding, for someone who could truly see her. She had survived because she had never given up completely. She had fought silently, but she had fought with love and resilience. Mark felt tears streaming down his face. He had always loved Emily, but now he realized he had only glimpsed the surface of her heart. The depth of her strength, her vulnerability, and her courage overwhelmed him. "Emily," he said finally, his voice breaking, "you've been carrying all of this alone, and I never saw it. I should have noticed." She shook her head gently. "It's not your fault," she said. "I wanted to protect you, and I thought I could handle it myself. But now you see me, and that's all I've ever wanted." Mark reached out and pulled her close. They sat together in silence, letting the weight of the letters and the unspoken truths fill the room. For the first time, he felt the full magnitude of their shared journey, the love, the struggles, the hidden pain, and the unbreakable bond that had brought them to this moment. Then, as he turned the final pages of the album, he noticed something unusual. A photograph tucked in the back showed Emily standing by a window, looking out at a rainy street. But in the reflection, there was someone else, a figure that she had never mentioned, someone who had played a significant role in her past. Mark's heart skipped a beat. This was a part of her life she had never spoken about, and now it was staring back at him from the page. He looked at Emily, his eyes searching for an explanation. She met his gaze, her expression solemn. "I didn't think I could ever tell you about this," she said quietly. "It's part of who I was, part of what shaped me, but I think it's time you knew." Mark nodded, his pulse quickening. He realized that the journey through her past was far from over. The album had already revealed so much, yet this photograph hinted at secrets even deeper, ones that could change the way he saw her completely. He felt a mixture of anticipation and apprehension. He loved her more than ever, but he understood that love meant facing the shadows together, not just the light. And now, it seemed, the shadows were ready to speak. Mark took a deep breath. He was ready to learn the rest of her story, no matter how painful, no matter how surprising. He wanted to understand every hidden corner of her heart. And in that moment, he knew that the bond between them would either strengthen or be tested in ways he had never imagined. The photograph fell slightly from the album, revealing a folded note tucked beneath it. Mark's hands trembled as he reached for it, unsure of what he would find. As he unfolded the paper, he realized that the next revelation could change everything he thought he knew about Emily and about the life they had built together. Mark unfolded the note carefully, his hands shaking. The paper was worn, edges curled, but the words were clear. Emily had written about someone from her past, a friendship that had turned complicated, a person she had trusted deeply, and a moment that had left scars she had never fully shared with anyone. "There was a time I thought I could let someone in completely," the note read. but I was wrong. I learned that even the closest people can hurt you. I had to protect my heart after that, and for a long time, I didn't know if I could trust anyone again." Mark's chest tightened. This was more than just a memory. It was a key to understanding the hidden layers of her strength and caution. He realized that every smile she had offered him, every gentle word, had been part of a carefully built armor. And now she was letting him see what lay beneath it. He looked at her, tears glistening in his eyes. "Emily, I had no idea. You carried so much, and I didn't see it. But I do now. I see you. All of you." Emily's lips trembled as she whispered, "It's been hard, but I've always hoped that someone like you would truly see me. Not just my smile, but my heart, my fears, and even the pain I've tried to hide." Mark reached out, taking her hands in his. "I want to be that person," he said, his voice steady with emotion. "I want to stand with you, through the shadows and the light. I want to carry the weight with you, not apart from you." For a long moment, they just held each other. The room felt quiet, yet it was heavy with the presence of unspoken emotions finally coming to life. Mark realized that love was never just about joy. It was about trust, vulnerability, and the courage to face the truths we often hide. He turned the album to the final page. It was a simple photograph of Emily, smiling softly, eyes full of hope. It was different from the others. This one wasn't about hiding pain. It was about resilience, survival, and the promise of new beginnings. Mark felt a swell of emotion. He understood now that Emily's smile had never been false. It had been her way of moving forward, of protecting herself while still offering love to those around her. And now, with the letters, the notes, and the photographs, he saw the full depth of the woman he had married. "Thank you for letting me see this," he said, his voice quiet but firm. "For trusting me with your heart, even the parts you thought were too heavy for anyone to hold." Emily smiled, a tear slipping down her cheek. "It wasn't easy, but I wanted you to understand me, truly. Not just the happy moments, but everything that made me, me." Mark held her close, feeling the warmth of her presence, the weight of her past, and the strength of her heart. He realized that love wasn't about perfection. It was about seeing the imperfections, the scars, the hidden pain, and choosing to stay, to support, and to cherish all of it. As the night deepened around them, Mark knew that the discovery of the photo album had changed everything. It had revealed truths he hadn't imagined, taught him about the resilience of the human spirit, and shown him the depth of Emily's love and courage. He kissed her forehead gently and whispered, "I promise I'll never let your smile hide pain again. I'll always see you, really see you." Emily leaned into him, her heart lighter, knowing that her secret struggles were no longer hers alone. Together, they had faced the past, uncovered the hidden storms, and found a love strengthened by understanding, trust, and empathy. Mark closed the album slowly, but neither of them moved. The room was still, but it hummed with a quiet, profound connection, the kind that comes from facing the truth, embracing it, and choosing to walk forward hand in hand. In that moment, Mark realized that love was not just about sharing joy. It was about seeing the full spectrum of someone's heart and choosing to be there through every shadow, every pain, and every triumph. And for the first time, he felt that they truly could face anything together. The photo album, once hidden and forgotten, had become a bridge, a way to understand, to heal, and to love more deeply than either of them had ever imagined. Their eyes met, full of unspoken promises. And in the quiet of that evening, they both knew that the real journey, the one of trust, empathy, and unwavering love, was only just beginning.